How are we doing, guys? And welcome back to TSTV for the match review of Brentford 0, Chelsea 0. Now, there's not really that much to say about this game. It was absolutely atrocious, really, from both teams. The first half, can't remember a single thing that happened. It was very, very kind of drab, kind of end of season feeling to the game, which is weird because obviously we got so much to play for, trying to go for Champions League qualification. And the second half was a bit better, and I'll come on to that in a bit more detail in a second. And both teams had a few more chances, but yeah, it was a pretty drab affair, wasn't it? Very uninspiring. Like it was going to be 0-0 from pretty early on in the game. And look, it was a disappointing result, I think, at the end of the day, even though I did predict a draw in my match predictions. As I said previously, I always kind of felt that these next four games really going to be crucial in terms of determining whether we finish in the Champions League places, because obviously we had Brentford yesterday and we've got Ipswich at home, Everton at home, and Fulham away coming up. Now, Fulham away and Everton at home are not easy games, given the fact that David Moyes has gone into Everton and done a really good job, I think. And Fulham obviously having a good season. They've just beaten Liverpool 3-2 at home as well. So they're not easy games, but they're easier than our last four games, right? So my thinking was that we needed to break the back of the points we would need to get into the Champions League in these four games, because I could easily see us losing 2 or 3 of the last 4. So draws are just not going to be enough to get Champions League qualification, particularly in our next 3 games as well. I was really disappointed with the lineup. Now, obviously, I gave my predicted lineup before the game and I got it completely wrong. I think everyone was in real shock when the lineup came out. To be honest, I thought maybe they put the wrong graphic up and it was like a Carabao Cup team from earlier in the season, and it was a mistake, but obviously it wasn't. I just don't understand how in a big game away against a London rival, you could go in with such a weak team, and a team that we all knew from the outset was never going to have any chance of winning that game of football. Any chance whatsoever. None. And the best we could hope for was getting to 0-0 at half-time and then bringing on some attacking players in the second half, which is what happened. But you've just wasted 45 minutes. You've wasted 45 minutes. Brentford weren't great in this game. They weren't great in the first half. If we had Jackson, Palmer, Cucurella in from the start, we'd have had a much better chance of winning the game. And then you go a couple of goals up and then you can rest Jackson again. You can take Cole off and take him off as a precaution. And look, I understand that Maresca's argument maybe that we played on Thursday and, you know, we've got to rest these players and get them back in. But realistically, the players I just mentioned shouldn't be needed away against Legia Warsaw on Thursday in the Conference League. If we were playing Real Madrid away in the Champions League, I'd get it a bit. I'd say, okay, you know, I understand it a bit more, but going with such a weak team in a big game for us just really baffled me, and particularly seeing Christopher Nkunku up front again. Now, I am sure I'm not the only person that is going to be hammering Christopher Nkunku on the back of this game, but everyone who has eyes and has watched Chelsea Football Club this season can see that Christopher Nkunku cannot play up front. He cannot play up front. He also has completely checked out, mentally, physically, offering absolutely nothing. The amount of times the ball would come into him and the defender would just step in and he wouldn't even bat or fight it. He'd give the ball away. He'd not run in behind. He had, I think, a chance in the box in the first half where he could have shot and he just stood there basically. And you could see the away fans behind the goal going absolutely mad at that. And I don't blame them, because really, what was the point in starting him? We knew what we were going to get. And that is just so disappointing to me. And obviously we've taken him off at half time and Nicholas Jackson's come on and it's just a waste. It's just such a waste of 45 minutes. And I don't particularly want to see Christopher Nkunku in a Chelsea shirt again. He's checked out. He doesn't want to be here. He's not even trying. He's not bothering. I don't want to see players that don't bother, don't run, don't fight for the badge. I don't want to see it. You know, he has no business getting Premier League minutes at this moment in time. I'd even argue with Conference League minutes. Does he have any business getting Conference League minutes? But I guess maybe needs must at the moment. But his application, his will and effort are just disgraceful. But can you really blame Nkunku for that? Can you blame him? Because we knew that's what we were going to get. We knew exactly that's what we were going to get. But Maresca still paid him up front anyway. Incredibly disappointing. You know, Malo Gusto at left back. Why? Oh, he played right back and Reece left back, sorry. But Malo Gusto has been so poor recently. Really poor again yesterday. Why isn't Cucurella playing? You know, he's so key to the way we not just defend, but also attack, because he's been a real source of goal threat recently. He gets into really good positions and, you know, he's kind of a little bit of a leader out on the pitch. Why isn't he playing? Why is Sancho playing? I just didn't understand the team selection at all. I think Maresca got it totally wrong. And, it nearly, well, it has backfired on him, to be honest. It has backfired on him because I don't really think a draw is good enough in that game. Brentford haven't kept a clean sheet at home all season. Not one clean sheet at home all season. And then we rock up and it's a pretty easy 0-0 for him. Things did improve in the second half when the cavalry came on. We had a couple of chances, but we weren't exactly banging the door down, but it was a bit better. Nicholas Jackson, within 2 minutes, did more than Kunku's done in about 6 months. Got the ball, ran in behind and got a shot away, which, again, never really looked like it was going on target. And I guess that's Florian Jackson's game, right? He's not kind of the most reliable finisher, but he does give you so much more in terms of an attacking presence, in terms of a threat, in terms of willingness to run behind, in terms of giving the opposition something to think about. It's completely night and day. And there's an argument now that Jackson, in a way, maybe other than Caicedo, is our most important player. And that doesn't mean he's our best player. He's not our best player. He's not better than Cole Palmer. He's not better than Caicedo. And maybe there's a few others you could throw in there as well. Reece James and people like that. But I think he probably is one of our most important players, right? Because when he's not in the team, we just don't function at all. An attacking point of view, it doesn't get the best out of any of the attacking players around him. And, Cole Palmer being a case in point. So when Jackson's not there, everyone struggles. It becomes so difficult trying to gain any momentum in a game, trying to trouble the back four, trying to, play on the counter-attack, try and do something a little bit different because Nkunku just offers nothing. And look, yeah, so maybe he is our most important player. Maybe he is. And again, that's maybe a bit of an issue unto itself, right? Because obviously he's not the greatest finisher in the world and he has a lot of flaws, but we are a better team when he's in the side. And, that's just reality. So yeah, other than that, there's just not really much to say about this game. It was drab. It was dull. It felt like a massive end of season affair where both teams have nothing to play for really and are just kind of going through the motions and wanting the season to end. But, we can't act like that. We can't play like that. We've got a lot to play for in trying to get into the Champions League. It's so big, not just to be having those great European nights at the bridge, but also financially for us. Being able to attract better players. It is so imperative that we get into the Champions League, and we just cannot afford to just throw halves of football or games away at this stage of the season. If it's, 7 or 8 games in, then maybe, okay, you can say fine. If you're playing even Southampton at home, okay, maybe you can get away with it, but not Brentford away. They're a decent side, and that team that was going to start the first half is never going to win a game of football. And you're basically relying on 45 minutes, essentially. You're relying on 45 minutes to win a 90-minute game of football, and you just can't do that. So yeah, pretty disappointing. We've got a few big games coming up. Every game's a big game at this stage of the season, but it is absolutely crucial, I think, that we get at least 7 points out of 9 in our next 3 games. Ideally, you want to get 9, and then you're in a decent position to try and get into the top 4. Maybe you can kind of get a draw and a win in one of your last 4 games and lose a couple and be okay. But it is imperative that we start to get points on the board for that kind of really difficult last 4 games. Liverpool at home, which because of that defeat of Fulham means that they could win the league at Stamford Bridge now, so they will have something to play for. Castle away, Man United at home, who always have a great record against us, and they've actually been pretty good in games against big teams, and obviously Forest away as well. So yeah, pretty down on the game, pretty down on the result. Not angry, not furious. I was pretty angry when the team came out, but obviously I've had a little bit of time to settle down on that now. We just need to get points on the board, get 3 points, and look, if we win, or not win, but if we get into the top 4 by 1 point, then maybe it's a good point. Who knows? But it didn't really feel like that yesterday, to be honest. So yeah, that's the match review. There's not really much to go into in terms of the game. It was pretty poor from both sides. We've got Legia Warsaw away in the Conference League on Thursday now. That should be a comfortable victory. Well, it should be comfortable over the 2 legs at least anyway. I don't think Legia are a great side. They're certainly not as good as Copenhagen, who we played in the last round, and we won that pretty comfortably, even though it was pretty boring in the end. So look, I'll be back with a match preview for that. Yeah, and look, let's just try and get that game out of the way, hopefully get a decent victory, and then we can look forward to getting 3 points against Ipswich, which is a must. We cannot drop points against Ipswich again. That would just be an absolute disaster. So yeah, there's the match review, guys. Pretty boring match review because there wasn't really much to go into, but there you go. I'll see you for the Legia Warsaw preview on Wednesday, and yeah, have a good one and see you soon.